That person is automatically framing what they think about you and your business through your social content. So if you're not doing social content, they're automatically going to go to the next person.
Welcome to the In the Arena podcast. My name is Jared Miguez, a co-host on this podcast that brings you the inspiring stories of our clients who are leaders and innovators across different industries in Southeast Louisiana. They are visionary entrepreneurs, savvy real estate professionals, media creators, military business owners, and community champions. And we are going to showcase the remarkable achievements and share their personal stories. Tune in for insightful conversations, valuable lessons, and motivational stories that are going to reveal their secrets to success and offer you insights to help you on your own path. Welcome to In the Arena podcast. Welcome to the In the Arena podcast. We have Katy today, and she is a marketing consultant for Northwestern Mutual, right? And what's your official job title?
Chief Marketing Officer.
Chief CMO.
CMO, or I guess like more fractional.
Yeah.
CMO.
Gotcha.
Yes.
You have an interesting job, and I want to bring some immediate value to this episode because a lot of financial advisors don't market through video, and they feel like they can't. The compliance says no. That's like the answer I get 90% of the time when I talk to financial advisors, but there is a way to do it, and it's important for any business trying to grow. So like if you were just gonna come out of the gate and give like a 30-second pitch on why video is so important to a business and a financial advisor, what would you say?
Hold on, I want to stop you right there. I don't do a lot of video. I just do more of like social media graphics and posting. So I don't want it to be like I do a bunch of video. Okay.
Just I guess,
marketing material.
Marketing
in general, but video is a part of it, but digital marketing in general.
Okay. So I think it's important because as an advisor, like anyone you meet with, the first thing they're going to do is look you up online. And so Facebook, Google, and so how are you showing up online? What kind of content is there? And then that person is automatically framing what they think about you and your business through your social content. So if you're not doing social content, they're automatically going to go to the next person. If you are, they're like, this is a great fit, or this person's okay, let me go to the next person. So I think it's important to just have a foundation, a social media foundation, and consistency.
Yeah.
So that way you can start building that.
So I really want to get into the detail of how you create a brand on social media. So when people look at you, those first 10 swipes are critical, no matter what they're seeing, whether it's graphics or video. But what's the mentality around the consistency part? Like, how much detail and time are your advisors putting into creating a social media presence on a weekly basis? Like your top social media users that are advisors right now.
So I really just I run that for them. So I try to take it off of their plate. But if I'm meeting with them, I want to know who you are, what makes you unique, different, and attractive, and your business unique, different, and attractive. And also content that's important to your clients. So a lot of times I feel like they're like, I don't really like doing this, but because they don't find that it's important, but it might be important to the person that they're trying to reach. So the first few is like who you are, who they market to, and a piece of content that shows the solution that they have for the problem that their client's having.
That's great. And so, you've grown up in that world for your whole life, right? To talk about how you kind of stumbled into this area of marketing, because it is a niche, right? Most people who have the experience that you have, or they do the role that you play, the role that you play in business, they kind of are casting a wide net in business in general. I love niching down and being very specific because you are actually doing what you're advising your advisors to do. You know exactly how to solve the problem for your ideal client, which is an advisor. You have to help them find their ideal client, right? So how did you get into that? How did you learn so much about this world that you're in?
Right. So I grew up in the financial services just with my family being involved. And I knew that being an advisor was never for me, but I loved creativity and marketing. So I did an internship at our corporate office, and then just kind of at the time, it was probably like 2013 where marketing was more of like communications, like doing a newsletter or doing an email. And social media really wasn't like something that people in financial services could really tap into. So I really just fact-finded with the people that I worked with, like, hey, what is important to you whenever you think about marketing? What are you hearing from clients? Let's do a client touch plan. And I found that we were consistently meeting, but little to no action was taking place, and that marketing is so important, but it's the first thing that gets put on the back burner. And so how can I solve that issue? Well, I love storytelling, making things pretty, and just kind of more of the graphic. So I said, hey, let me pilot this where I just do a fractional marketing for you. So I'm not claiming to know it all, but I know that this is where I really excel at. And that just kind of grew. Within a year, I went from working with 5 advisors to 20 plus advisors. And at first it was more of like managing their brand. So like, we know that they need to be posting on social media. Consistency is important. And then it was like really defining what ROI meant to different people, because some advisors just want consistency. Some see like, oh, this person has 100,000 followers. I really want that. But if you want to organically grow, there's like a price and a strategy that goes in place with that. And I found that, you could have great marketing materials. You can have a great marketing event or client event experience. But the foundation in the world that we live in is the first thing someone's going to do is look you up. And so before you do anything, we're setting the framework on how you're being framed online. And then we're going to be intentional and consistent with content that we're putting out. So that way, whenever someone looks you up, they either resonate with you or they don't. And if they don't, that's okay. And I find that we talked about like niche. Some advisors or business owners get nervous to be like, I only work with this person. But if you market to everyone, you market to no one. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that you can realize once you have that mindset or that mind shift. Is that really honing in and figuring out who you want to work with, because the worst case is that that person isn't an ideal client for you, and you can connect them to someone who is.
Yeah. I want to, you keep saying the word strategy and intentional. And
Yeah.
I want to go down the rabbit hole in a second.
Okay.
But I want to kind of tell you my story, my light bulb moment where I realized how we can do video and social media more effectively. And we were very specific about who our ideal client was before we started Arena. Like, ours is a business owner or an executive looking to grow and scale his business. And we have a laundry list of characteristics that describe this person so that we know who they are. When they walk down the street, we clearly know who they are. And the light bulb went off when I realized that what I'm saying on social media has to speak directly to that person, and like you said a second ago, solve their problems that they have that are between them and their goal. And so if you look on paper, if our client's looking to grow their business, like, what are the 2 things between, or the 3 things between them, where they're at, and where they're trying to go? And we identified that it's their operating system that they operate within their business, their mindset that they have whenever they're operating their business, because business is hard. And the third thing is the legal structure of their business. Those are the 3 things between them and where they want to go. So now all of our content pushes on one of those 3 things. This podcast is speaking to a business owner, helping them scale their business. And we're going to talk about systems and the way they operate. And so it's when that clicked, I went from saying, this is what a power of attorney is, to, if you're a business owner looking to grow your business, is why you need to know what a power of attorney is. And immediately I'm speaking more directly to my ideal client. But you can't be that until you know who you're being. And that's what I feel like strategic and intentional means. And so like when you like have an advisor who's coming to you and says, I want to start online, how does that process go with you when you're helping them be intentional and strategic when it comes to those things?
Right. Well, I take them through, I created like a marketing fact finder that just goes over who they are, who their ideal client is. A lot of times they don't really know, but it's like, who are the people that bring you the most revenue? Who are the people that you love working with? Maybe it's sometimes even identifying people that they don't really like working with, because then we can figure out,
work backwards, yeah.
At least we know that piece of it. And then it's like, what are most important to these people? Like, what are their values? What are their goals? What's a commonality? And also just looking at like what you're having and your client, what you're talking about in your client meetings, and kind of what their objections are. So for younger people, it might be like, I don't have enough money to invest. Okay, well, you don't need an X amount of money to invest. Just start now. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of looking at where they're at, who they love working with, what are they consistently talking about in client meetings, or is there a theme that they're constantly having to like reaffirm why they should work with them, and then what their objections are that they're receiving, and then twisting that to tailor it to that person.
Yeah, I like the fact that you call yourself a fractional CMO, because you hear about fractional CFOs all the time. You know, people are scaling their business. They get to that point where the accounting might be getting difficult, and the idea of scaling and projecting out numbers is hard because they're operating their business at a high level, right?
Right.
And marketing is the same thing. You know, you hire different people to help with marketing as you're growing your business, whether it's a videographer to help create content, or a social media manager, or a graphic designer, or whatever you're doing. But I like the idea of a fractional CMO for somebody in your role, because it kind of portrays yourself as more of a strategic thinker and not necessarily just a person who's going to go push the buttons that you need to be pushing. And as these business owners or these financial advisors are growing, you know, they might have a little bit of time at first to maybe spend some time on social media, but not knowing and understanding it. You can spend your time learning social media, or you can spend your time learning how to either generate more leads or being better at the craft that you're operating within. And I think people get to a crossroads at that, and they get frustrated because they don't know how to do it, and they feel like they need to spend a bunch of time doing it. And when you're first starting your business, especially in the financial advisor world, at one point they were telling you to go cold call or door knock on 100 doors a day, right? And like, how do you have time to do that and grow a brand? And it's like a catch-22, right? Like, there's that cold sales part of the business you have to get through to kind of get your name out there, and it's a lot of work on you, the more manual lead generation type stuff. And then there's the marketing side, which I think social media is for, which is just awareness of your brand. And people talk about ROI all the time. Like, how do you calculate ROI when it comes to social presence? And you can tell me if I'm thinking about this the wrong way, or if there's another way to think about this other than the way I'm thinking about it. But for me, I want to just put out content so that people know who I am, and I'm not calculating how many leads I'm generating from my content. Now, we don't do any paid ads yet. We will. We do a lot of organic posting, but our objective is how many people see our stuff to where they come in our office and know what to expect. They don't come if they don't want to do business with us, because they know what they're going to get when they get here, and to bring more just brand awareness in general, and to remind our audience that do follow us of what we do consistently, right? And we have a large volume of content we put out. And so from an advisor standpoint, am I thinking about ROI in a way that they like to think about it, or is there another way to think about ROI when it comes to social media?
No, you're thinking about it the right way. And actually, I have two thoughts. The first is, whenever you're talking about fractional CMO, it just reminded me of, like, a few weeks ago, I had a call with a coach, and he was like looking to get into social media, really like expand his reach and get in another market. And he was like, I really want to do a bunch of Facebook ads, like boosting this, very targeted marketing. And I was like, that is great. I can connect you with someone, but I am not the person for that. If you want me to create the ad and kind of manage it, great. But I am not the person to be like boosting and targeting, because it's just not my area of expertise. And I think sometimes whenever people don't really know what they need or want, but like just reaching out and talking to someone, whether it's like a fractional CMO or another marketing leader, can help guide that person to really figure out what is their goal and then how can I get there. As far as ROI, whenever I work with advisors, I look at their business goals, their engagement, and then client feedback. And so nothing makes them more excited than me more excited when someone's like, oh, I love, that you highlighted this person, or I love what your team's doing. I love what you're doing in the community. Anytime I get that feedback, I have a file that's just like client feedback. So they can like remember, and it's a nice reminder, like, hey, my A+ client loved that we were doing this in the community, or they thought this was a thought-provoking post. And then whenever we look at our business goals, like let's say they get advisor of the year or like a Pathfinder, just whatever our awards are, knowing that social media played a part of that, because they wouldn't have been able to achieve that if they weren't consistently putting their brand out there. And obviously, like likes and engagement, we continuously want that to like grow. And but, there's going to be months where like maybe we don't grow, and then months where it's like, wow, we had a few really great posts. And for those great posts, like let's say like we post this podcast, and then you share it, and then I like a strategy and being intentional, like maybe looking at the people that are liking, engaging with your posts and seeing, are there any advisors? Are there any people that we have mutual connections with? And following up, and then kind of tracking that to say like, hey, post shared from Jarrett connect it with these 5 people. And that's also part of our ROI where 100%. We're looking at how we're growing and engaging.
I love that. I mean, people think that the ROI comes from you putting a video out there, but really that's another lead. If you consistently go to your videos, the same 30 people like your videos every time. Those are the people who want to speak to you. They're telling you that. They're raising their hand. You just have to be intentional about going and looking for them and following up with them and setting appointments and meetings. It's just, it's another way to generate leads. And I think people look at, like, if my video doesn't go viral, then I'm not getting the ROI that I set out to get for it. And I think that's a great way to do it. I know we haven't intentionally gone and tracked our followers and our people who are liking our posts consistently. But it is 2.0 of what we're trying to do. And I think that we do video and social media really well. And we're not even close to utilizing it the best we can. Because I really think we could also, 3.0 would be paid ads and using our video and stuff to find more direct leads. We're just not quite there yet. And I'm enjoying the slow kind of grind to social media. And I think that some people have the immediate gratification, like try it for 90 days and see if it works. And if it doesn't, I'm going to go focus on something else, which I think having a fractional CMO helps you kind of push through that ceiling. But also we all know that everything takes time. I mean, I had a couple of people recently in business, like getting into it and asking me for feedback and help. And I'm like, look, you've been in this for 90 days, 6 months. Like, you need to love it enough to commit 5 years before you actually get where you're looking to go. That's a long time. But just when you have that long-term mindset, it allows you to commit to try and figure things out. Because over 90 days, 6 months, even a year, you're not going to really be able to have enough practice and repetitions to know whether you're doing it the right way or that you haven't refined it to the point where it's really effective. So what's your mindset? And I want to make sure this isn't a vanity metric to me. What's your mindset around Google reviews? How important do you think those are to businesses?
I think they're really important because it helps the overall algorithms of helping, get your Facebook page up there, get your LinkedIn, your Instagram. It's also great just for whenever, if you have a Google listing and someone's leaving a review, it's helping boost you.
SEO.
Yeah.
We try. I was taught this by a successful mortgage lender named Hung Lee, and then a inspector and I talk about a lot, Michael Claus, and we talk about how to effectively get a Google review from somebody. And I think some people will plug it into their process and like have somebody on their team ask for the review in an email or something like that. I've quadrupled my reviews. I think we have something like 400 or almost 500 5-star reviews on Google right now. We've been open for 2 years. And like the next title company who has any reviews is like 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 15 at the most. And the only thing we're doing differently is that we're asking for it immediately after the transaction is completed. And we're directly asking for it. So I'm asking every single time I do a closing for somebody to leave us a review. And we'll do, I think a third of all of our clients that do a closing with us will leave us a review. And we've had people like reach out to us because they look us up, right? They go to social media to see what you're doing, and they go to Google and see whether you have, credibility and people are giving you good feedback. And we actually got our small business partnership with the Saints through Google. So we had been open for like 6 months, and we had already started getting quite a bit of reviews, and they wanted to find a small business law firm, transactional firm that they could bring under their partnership. And they looked us up. One, they liked the black and gold, obviously, but then they saw that we had a bunch of 5-star reviews, and they're like, we want to be a part of an organization, or we want an organization like yours to be a part of our group because obviously you have good feedback in the community. So I think Google reviews are critical. You don't really know how much they're effective until you actually have them make a difference. And like, it's just like one instance you're gonna be like, okay, well, I'm glad I spent the effort and time asking for positive feedback because it will click.
We actually had a client last week in our quarterly meeting. They said that we had someone call in from Google to set a meeting, and it's actually a really good meeting. Like, it's a really great case. And one of the partners was like, who do you know calling a financial firm from Google to work? Because like financial planning, usually that's like a referral, word of mouth, someone that you trust and like has the credibility versus Google. But we put that in all of our processes, usually like in our email signature, like leave us a Google review, or like during the onboarding process. And then last year we started doing like once a quarter, just our top 10 to 20 people sending them a message like, hey, do you mind leaving us a review? It takes 5 seconds.
If you're adding value to people, they're going to be more than happy to
so,
leave you a review. I mean, they want to support you just like you're supporting them, and they will leave you a review. You just have to have the courage to ask for it. And I can't tell you, I mean, again, I know that it has added credibility to our firm because, and if you want to get strategic with it, we have our Google reviews now somehow connected to our website, which is somehow connected to our Facebook page. So every time somebody clicks on one, it goes through all of them, and again, helps your online presence so much. And so I highly recommend that if anybody's listening to this trying to just get started in digital marketing at all, at least ask for a Google review because it'll help so much with the long term of your business, and you'll be surprised how many people are willing just to do whatever you ask them to do when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so I think we would be doing a disservice if we didn't talk about how much red tape is around marketing in your industry. And you're not the only industry that has those red tape. I mean, if a law firm's putting out a digital advertisement, we have to ask for permission from the state bar in order to do that. And a lot of people don't want to put out digital ads because they don't want to have to go through that process. You have to pay for every ad. So I mean, every industry that is professional, like a lawyer, a doctor, a financial advisor, a CPA, there's always red tape around it. But how do you as a CMO advise people to figure out how to market themselves effectively, but also play within the rules of being an advisor?
I think it comes down to personalization because in finance, we're all marketing the same thing essentially. But what's going to make someone choose one person over another is like their personality and what they're doing, what their values are, what they're doing in the community. And so working around those guidelines, we have our own like compliance portal that we run all of our social media through. So like everything that we post has to go through compliance, but we'll utilize articles and just kind of like reframe the way we're positioning more of like the business strategy stuff. But majority of it is like personality, customized, personal to you. Maybe it's like a family picture in the community or, hosting a luncheon or, doing a client testimony, which will just have the client, sign that it's okay to use their information or their name. But I think personalization is key and what drives, you can't argue something when it comes to who you are as a person.
Sure. And like you said it earlier today, there's a million financial advisors in the world. There's enough business to go around. And if you're knowing your ideal client is and you're, self-aware enough to know who you are, then you put yourself out there and you're going to attract the people who want to spend time with you. But you've got to be confident enough to do it and trust that there's enough business to go around. Think of them coming from a place of abundance and scarcity. And I think a lot of people in business get scared of that. And I also, I like how you're focusing on the values and the community impact because most people think, well, I got to post what the average the cost of a policy is or how much return I'm going to get you in the market. But people don't want to see all that. You're not guaranteeing anybody. They all know everything's different. They want to be able to relate to you as a human being. And I think advisors and bankers and insurance people and attorneys, they don't understand that. They think it's almost unprofessional or they don't have the clarity around themselves enough to know how do I put myself out there to attract the right type of person to me. I'd say the same thing about podcasts. I mean, this whole podcast is not about our law firm. It's about what you are and who you are and what you're doing. And I'm promoting our clients and our partners in the industry. So easily could a financial advisor just promote their clients and help the client become more well-known in the community, help the client grow their business, and that only going to put more money in the advisor's hands to be able to manage as that client grows. So what can you do to promote your clients more, promote the community more, and show how you're making an impact? Because I would bet that if an advisor took a business owner, promoted them, and then that business owner who's likely going to have other friends who are doing similar things, see that, they're going to say, well, my advisor's not putting me out there in the world and helping support me. So at the least on your social media, sharing your clients' businesses and what they're doing on social and try to get them out there as much as you can would be easy. And you're not talking about advising at all, not one bit.
And I think it's also just understanding your compliance restrictions because I will, if there's something that we want to do and I know it's like a gray area or kind of like treading it, I just like reach out and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. like, how can we make it work? It's not like if we're going to do it, it's how we're going to make it work. And most of the times those people appreciate you just reaching out versus like asking for forgiveness.
Yeah. I was kind of going to ask you, like, how often is it to ask for forgiveness type of thing? And I know the right answer is never. I always ask permission first, but I can imagine that it's got to be a frustrating thing because we all know how valuable it is, but we also have to know that that the consumer has to be protected too. We got to make sure that the content is good content and it is credible content, and there aren't people putting things out there that aren't true. They're going to manipulate people. So I mean, there is a fine line that can be important, but it doesn't mean you have to stay away from it. When it comes to video, do you have any clients that do video?
I do.
You do?
I have a few clients. Yes.
Yeah. And what's their mindset around video? I mean, because we have the video content company. We do a lot of video. We support video. I think video is a critical piece of your marketing plan. But how do you what's your clients' mindset around video?
I think video is very important. It's actually something that a lot of financial advisors don't use, and I think it comes to like compliance and being scared. But whenever you look at the next generation of the people that you work with, that's where they get their content. And so tapping into that, a lot of the video content we currently do is just more of like informative. So like whiteboarding sessions we'll do, with Highland Wealth, we do a lot of videos with them, just what they're doing in the community, things that they're hearing from clients. We recently did one for Father's Day that was like, what do you think your dad does? And that one was really cute. But I think video in particular and doing reels is like such a missed opportunity in the financial world, because that's where people go to get financial advice. They're going to TikTok. Like, that's our biggest competition.
They're also getting financial advice from people that they shouldn't really consume that type of content,
Right. So I think it's important. And that's why more of a video is more of educational, because, hey, as a certified financial planner, this is my expertise versus like, hey, this is why you should budget, just like some Joe Blow off the street. But we've been slowly tapping into more and more reels, and I think there's getting to be a bigger demand for that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And it might not be something that can be done, but a lot of people, I believe, don't do video because they don't know how. They're scared that things can be too expensive. And that's kind of our mission with that at Lettuce, is to let people know that we'll help you figure out how. You don't have to be nervous because we're going to teach you and help you make you feel comfortable, and that it's not going to break the bank. It's actually one of the most beneficial things you can do to help grow your business when you invest in it. And the idea of like, what do I say? How do I do it? How do I create content? How do I come up with stuff? Again, going back to being intentional and strategy, but also knowing who your ideal client is, speaking directly to them, and just breaking down basic stuff that we talk about every day. They don't understand what some of the things are, and just defining what those things are can be critical. And without even telling them what you can do for them or guaranteeing anything, it's just like, what is this versus that? That's a short reel that if you can be effective and communicate that well, people are going to find value in that, and they're going to want to come to somebody who they can trust is going to bring it down to a plain English level and explain something to them.
Yeah, I think people with video, they also want to just like overload information where it's like, hey, here's 3 things, or here's like one quick thing. And they overthink like, oh, if I do a reel on budgeting, I need all 6 steps and I need this and that, where it's like, no, just throw a quick fact. And that's where you can also utilize AI to help you, like, hey, I'm trying to do this, like, give me a great hook, give me a great call to action, like utilize those kinds of technologies to kind of help speed up and get you what you're looking for.
I use ChatGPT
all the time.
Everything. Chad GPT.
Yeah, I mean, it really, it's such an effective tool. But again, you can't really use it as effectively as it can be used unless you know who you are and what you're talking about. Because like when we use ChatGPT, it takes a couple weeks and months to really get it refined to know who you are. But you've got to be able to know who your ideal client is, what your values are, what you're trying to grow, who you're trying to attract, what market you're in, what your business is. Put that in there first, but then ask it the question. Because if you just ask it a general question like, make me a marketing plan, it's not going to know enough about you to give you an answer. But it's crazy how accurate it is once you actually teach it who you are. And now you really can't tell the difference between us as a brand speaking ourselves or utilizing chat to create something for us.
But if you don't teach chat, then you can tell that is chat, and it's so horrible. It drives me crazy.
There's too much adjectives and
and like the little lines.
The lines. Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, it was actually somebody was sending me emails that I could tell that they generated from ChatGPT, and like they left in there when chat was like,
sure,
thank you for making that clear. And I was like, all right, dude, like, come on, you can do better than that. So it is a tool, but use it responsibly.
Right.
The last thing I want to talk about, which I love talking to marketing people about this, because I think that people don't, people have kind of pushed it to the wayside. And from my perspective, like, again, the foundation and the first thing you have to be good at is selling yourself one-on-one, without having social media, without having, print ads and all the other stuff. You got to be able to sell yourself. And you got to have the strategy and the detail behind who you are and who you're attracting. The second thing, though, once you get into marketing, I believe that you have to have your toe in a little bit of everything. A lot of people don't believe in print ads anymore. People don't believe in social media yet. Some people don't understand the value of sponsorships and partnerships. So I think a lot of people who watch this podcast are probably going to think more social media just because they're following us on a social media platform. But like when you're talking about business in general and marketing, what is your mindset whenever you're advising somebody on having a wide range of marketing tools they're using to grow their business, from print, social, advertisement, paid ads, all the above? How do you walk them through that process, and how critical do you think that all those things are when it comes to actually scaling your business?
I think they're all a piece of the puzzle, but the foundation is how you show up online in your social media. So that's why I start with the foundation of like, hey, let's go through the framework, like your website, your social media platforms, how you're showing up. Because like in the beginning, whenever I was meeting with people and it's like, oh, well, let's do a networking event or let's sponsor this, but there's no like foundation or strategy around any of it. So I believe the social media is just the foundation. And then it's looking at, okay, we have our ideal client, which they are often doing XYZ. All right, cool. So how can we market to XYZ? Is it sponsoring this organization that a lot of them are a part of? Is it doing a print ad or a billboard in a small, community? Do most of your clients live in a certain neighborhood? So we're going to sponsor an ad for that neighborhood magazine. So and it also depends on what their budget is. So it's really setting the foundation. All right, where's your ideal client? What's your budget? And then how can we spread that throughout, the year? And how can we touch your clients like 18 plus times this year, whether it's an email campaign, whether it's, the advertisements, whether it's like hosting at a suite or a game or just kind of wherever. The idea with marketing, I feel, is like you have your branding and management, but then it's also replicating your A+ clients. So really honing in on like treating them, giving them the A+ royalty and going where they're at so you can then duplicate. So that's why like strategy is so important, because if I work with you and you're like, oh, I just want to manage social media. Okay, cool. Like nothing's really going to come from that. Like you're getting as much as you're putting into it.
For sure. 100%. I think you're spot on. Going where your clients are at. And, you said it, the neighborhood advertisements and magazines sponsor the neighborhood events. I mean, people come up to me often and say, y'all are everywhere. I tell them, you see me everywhere because you're my ideal client. Right. And I'm speaking to you. If I go to talk to the other person who's not my ideal client, they're not going to have any idea who I am.
Right.
But I am intentional enough to know where you're going to be and where your eyeballs are going. And I'm going to be there as many times as I can be. And the neighborhood advertisements in a magazine is the perfect example of that for two reasons. And I tell people this all the time. Like, they ask me, how do you decide whether you're going to put yourself in a magazine? Well, first of all, I want to know, obviously, who's going to get the magazine. Is it where my ideal client is going to be? But that's really secondary to my primary focus, which is how are you as a publisher going to promote me within the other businesses that are also marketing to my ideal client? Because those people are likely going to be my ideal client too, or I can utilize them to help me get to my ideal client. I want them to know who I am. So are you going to do a event for the sponsors? Are you going to have conversations with them regularly about what they're trying to accomplish and listen for ways to connect them with me that makes sense? And I'm not going to invest a ton of money and time into somebody who's going to just put me in a magazine with all these other people and push me out there. I want to know how you're going to add value outside of that. But again, also that's knowing that they're going to be where my ideal client is and that their sponsors in their magazines are also my ideal client.
And the same message too. like keeping a consistent message all across everything that you do in marketing is super important too.
Well, that's knowing the goal and knowing the 3 things or 5 things between them and their goal, and that you keep a cohesive approach to the message that you're putting out there. And it can seem redundant. All the time I'm posting something and I'm like, I've already said this 100 times, but if you go follow anybody who's got a gigantic business and they use social media or marketing in general, they're literally saying the same thing over and over again.
Just
in a different way.
Yeah.
and they're making it feel fun to watch, and they're charismatic usually. But even if they're not, they're saying the same thing in a bunch of different ways. And there's a strategy that I've told several people, and I don't know if anybody's taking me up on it, but if you have partners, you have to come up with, if you have 2 partners, half the amount of content. If you have 4 partners, a quarter of the amount of content that you have to do if you're by yourself. Because I can say something, you can say something, and you can say something. It could all be the exact same thing. But if it comes from you, and me, it's all going to sound just a little bit different and be a different piece of content. So like sometimes when we're strategizing and doing content for social media, all 4 of us will sit around the room, we'll say the exact same thing in our own words. And it's 4 different pieces of content. We say the exact same thing. And so the ideas you have to have are cut by how many people you have in the room. And even though it feels redundant, it's going to feel different from your clients. And if they see 1 out of the 4 videos that you post, and the one thing that they wanted to hear you didn't say at that moment, then they miss it and you miss your opportunity. So in my mind, limiting the goal to 1 or 2 goals and the problems you're solving to 3 to 5 things, and then pushing on those things as often as you can, I think is critical. And when you have partners, you can double down on that.
Not being afraid to repurpose content. We do that all the time. Like, what's the top performing content? All right, let's reword this a different way, like position it a different way.
Change the color.
Like it's like a simple thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. I love marketing. I talk about marketing all day, but I think it's cool. We've had several marketing people on, but your perspective is unique. And I love the fact that you're growing your business within an organization, and having a niche is huge. And you're proving the concept with the people you're trying to help grow their business. And luckily their niche is different than yours. So you can say, look, I'm doing this. This is how it works. I've done it. I can prove that it works. I'm running a business within this system. Now let me teach you how I did it, and just find who your ideal client is and grow it. So I think it's cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank
this
you.
was fun.
Yeah,
this is like one of the most like strategic bang, bang, bang conversations that we've had, and I really enjoyed it.